Welcome to the Jigme Kelting podcast show. My name is Jigme Kelting. Each week, you'll hear fascinating conversations as well as stories from many professionals from a broad range of fields and experiences they've had. On today's episode, I have the great pleasure to chat with Alex Miller. Alex is a former contestant on the 19th season of American Idol and a young and upcoming singer-songwriter with genuine heart, true authenticity, and a champion for carrying the torch for traditional country music. Miller's rare old-time sound, paired with his infectious personality and charm, has truly made audiences around the world stop to listen and fall in love with him. He's with me to talk more about it. Welcome, Alex.
Well, thank you so much for having me on here, Jigna. I sure appreciate you.
Yeah, man, it's so great to chat with you today. I remember seeing your American Idol audition, and I knew instantly this guy was a special guy, and he's gonna go places, and he doesn't know it, but he's definitely going to reach destinations that are far beyond his wildest dreams. And so that brings me to my first question. And I've always been so curious about this. Why was American Idol sort of your first choice to sign up for?
Well, it was kind of a whim in the first place of how I even got to audition for the show. And American Idol just kind of fell in my lap, truthfully. So I've told this story quite a few times, and I think I'll tell it again today. But my mom and I were in a little bit of a disagreement about what I was going to do with my life. She wanted me to go to school, and I think going to college and doing all that kind of stuff is a great thing. But she was determined that's what I was going to do, and I had other ideas. I wanted to be what I am now, a singer and a writer. And it's not that she didn't believe in me. I don't think it's just she knew that was going to be such a hard thing to do. And we was really getting into it, as son and daughters, sons and moms and dads do sometimes. And so she stormed off in her bedroom and said, blah blah blah, and we just were mad. And she come in about 5 minutes or so and said, "Hey son, I'll tell you what. If you want to be a country singer and songwriter and all this stuff, I'll tell you what, I'll just sign you up for American Idol. And if things go well there, then I guess it's meant to be. But if not, you better get your school stuff ready to go." So you better believe, Jimmy, I was practicing like ever before that audition. I wanted to make almost for certain that I would get spotted on the show. And, you just never know how that kind of stuff comes about. So it was Thursday night, and I got on a Zoom call, much like this, and just auditioned, sang a little bit for them, and they seemed to really like me, and they sent me on to another group of producers and another group of producers, and eventually I got to the end, and they said, "Would you like to come to San Diego?" And I said, "Well, sure, that wouldn't hurt my feelings at all." I said, "I'd love to come out there and sing." And so the rest of it you got to see on television, but I tell you what, it was I didn't know if I was going to get there or not, but sure did, and I'm glad of it too.
Right, and as we're talking about Idol right now, I mean, I want to talk about something so interesting, and I found this really hilarious that you walked into the audition room, and I remember seeing Luke Bryan, and this is actually, I don't know if people saw this, but if you did, it was the most really resonating thing ever. There's just something about the bond between you and Luke Bryan that really captivated the audiences, because Luke Bryan, you walk in and he's just jamming out to Bony Fingers by Hoyt Axton. And then there you are, you walk in and you join in on the jam session. Talk to me about how that happened.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. The whole Idol, going into the room and singing and playing, it's really kind of been a blur, but I've regained some consciousness, I guess you could say, about it. And, going in there, I just was myself as I am today. That's just who I was and who I am. And I can't help that. So I heard Bony Fingers. I said, "Oh, that's a good number." So I know a little bit of that one. So when it come time to say it, I did too. So, and a lot of that stuff in the audition, I was in there for a solid 20 minutes. I mean, it wasn't that long of a segment on the show, but I was in there for every bit of that long. I can remember me and Luke talking about, so my family did tobacco farming way back in the day. So we talked about tobacco buyouts and tobacco farming, and we talked about all kinds of different things. And it was a long segment. We was in there, and we really did have a bond and do have a bond. And I was just so excited to be there that I didn't know really what to do other than what I did. So
Yeah, and my follow-up to that question is that, like I remember also Katy Perry, um, she asked you about if Lancaster, Kentucky was a big city. And you mentioned, like it's not really a big city at all because you'd have to count the cows to get a census report, right? I
that's
mean, talk
exactly right.
I mean, talk to me about Lancaster, Kentucky and sort of what kind of town that is.
Well, easily that's very easy to explain. It's one of those one traffic light kind of places that you go crawling through and hope you get out of. It's a nice little town though. I really do and enjoy my time here. And it's one of those places. It's got like a town square, and so there's all kinds of buildings and things, and it's really a centrally located kind of town, you could say, because you can drop a pin right in the middle of town and you can pretty well see everything. It's a small little town, but it's a nice, quiet little place too. And that's the nice thing about it. When something big happens, everybody knows it. And I was glad that my hometown had something to cheer for on that season of American Idol. And buddy, they sure come out and supported me. And even now, I go out in public, and if I'm walking down the street, people roll down their windows and say, "Hey, Alex, really like you singing and appreciate you," and all this kind of stuff. And the people around here really appreciated me representing us as well as I did. And I didn't really was trying to. I just went out there and was my Garrett County Lancaster self, and it just seemed people seem to gravitate to that. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, and you know what? I find that so fascinating that you just said that because, like obviously you're talking about Lancaster, Kentucky being such a small town and a quiet place where basically like, a community that's so tight knit,
Hmm.
like, and I don't live in a small town, but like it's a very quiet neighborhood that I live in.
Hmm.
And so like basically everybody knows everybody, right? Like that's
It's
the
the
type.
same kind of feeling, yeah, but just the whole town.
Exactly. And this is why I'm going to ask this question because I feel this is actually important. Growing up in a small city, it's not ideal for some people, but in your case, you seem to embrace that lifestyle and appreciate the tiniest things in your life. Why is that?
Well, you never appreciate what you got until it's gone. You really don't. And there's not a lot of Lancaster, Kentucky's left. A lot of places, we see it here in Kentucky all the time. The whole town's pretty well go abandoned and things like that. And it's nice to have a community that really supports itself. And there's local businesses here, mom and pop kind of places, and we all try to support that. And there's a lot of places all across, not just the United States, but across the world that are like that too. And I think the United States gets a lot more recognition for that. But there's places all over like that, and we just, I hate to see places like our little town, dry up, because that just is a part of America that's leaving, and I don't think that that's a thing that needs to happen.
Absolutely. And like there's just something about, talking about small towns and small cities that are so resonating to so many people. And like myself and like I find that it probably isn't that bad at all to live in a tiny area because, like I said in the beginning, that not only does everybody know everybody, but it's those strong relationship you build with those people in your community, right? That ultimately get you past the discomfort of residing in a very, very small city that isn't very popular among others, right? Like, I mean, what do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Well, the fascinating thing about it is the people that don't live here want to live here, and the people here sometimes don't want to live here. So it's an interesting thing. When people come, and we don't have a lot to do here in Lancaster, but we have some really good restaurants. We do really have some good stuff like that, and some local places that knock your socks off. But we don't have a lot to do here, so all people around here always complain about that. But I've never really complained about it because I like the home kind of feel of things. And, you know, uh, I used to work all the time on the farm, and I've got to where I'm pretty sorry work help, but just been busy and all. But I, uh, I tell you that Lancaster is a great place, and I love it dearly, and don't see myself moving soon, but I hear Nashville calling my name every day.
Absolutely. And enough talking about Lancaster now. We both know why we're here. We're here to chat about music. Um,
Yes, sir.
and so, I mean, listening to your interviews is fascinating because, there isn't anybody like yourself that's so invested in sort of carrying the torch of traditional country music. Um, why do you feel that is a great importance in your life?
Well, I just enjoy the music that I enjoy, whether it's traditional country music or I listen to a lot of different things. And I think that there's good music no matter where you look. Um, I don't think to me, I just enjoy what I enjoy, whether it's traditional country or I like Kiss and Frank Sinatra and AC/DC and all that kind of stuff. I'm into all of it. The music that I sing is just what I think is good. And I think that it's just music is subjective. We all know that. And I just like my kind of music. And I think a lot of other people do too. And if I can bring my kind of music to the world, then I'm going to do my best to do that. I get a lot of people saying that I carry the torch for traditional country music. I agree with that, but I carry the torch for my music too, for what I am, and I can't hide that. That's for doggone sure.
No, absolutely. And like speaking of importance, I know your granddad and your family are big motivators, and also you had a recent passing. My condolences to you.
Well, thank you for that.
But I've also noticed that one of the more notable men that sparked your passion for singing and songwriting, and that was also sort of the main reason why you got into country music, was Merle Haggard.
Oh yeah.
Um, can you talk a little bit more about the significance Merle has had on your career?
Well, yes, I grew up singing Merle's music whenever I was, I'm 7, 8, 9, something like that, and used to play his stuff all the time, and still do. We still play Big City at our show because we did it with Luke Bryan. I thought I might as well put it in my show too, but we do some Haggard songs in our show, and Merle was so influential. He brought a lot of the old ideas and made them new again. Like he has more of a Lefty Frizzell kind of style of singing, I always thought, and so he brings that influence in and puts a modern twist on it and sings modern lyric, and I love that about him, and I love that about his music in particular. I actually got to see him before he died. Whenever I was quite a bit younger. I was 10, 12, 11, somewhere in there, and I got to see him at a local place here called Renfro Valley, Kentucky, which is a fairly big venue and a place that I used to play when I was a kid. But I tell you what, even up in years, Merle was a killer entertainer and performer, and I can remember me and my granddad going and seeing him and really having a good time. And that night probably changed my life, truthfully.
Yeah, certainly. And I don't know if you have or hadn't seen it, but Kennedy Center Honors video from Merle and the iconic Vince Gill mentioned how he was the poet of the common man. And so I was wondering how you view the impact he has not only made in the world of country, but in the music realm in general.
Well, what Vince said is 100% true. His song spoke to so many people, and I hope as a songwriter that I can speak to as many people as Merle did. He had, like you said, a simple way of saying things, and plain. I wouldn't call it a simple, because simple sounds bad. I'd call it a plain way of saying things, a way that you can understand what he meant in a song. And as a songwriter, there ain't no better inspiration than listening to some Merle Haggard music. That's for sure.
No, definitely. Like I've always loved listening to those old time sounding artists. There's something just about Jeannie Seeley. There's something
Mm-hmm.
about Vince Gill. There's something about Ben Haggard. There's something about Bill Anderson, Brad Paisley, and now you're seeing
Yeah,
all these new artists like yourself that are coming up in the ranks. And you're seeing, people like Lainey Wilson, Haley Witters,
yeah.
Maren Morris, who's been doing that for a while, but is just sort of getting the recognition she deserves, right? Like
Oh yeah,
um, Casey Musgraves, who
yeah.
featured an Elvis song in the Elvis film, which I have to say, people who didn't watch it yet, go watch it.
We're going tonight. I ain't seen it yet, so we're going
Oh, you're
tonight. So
going
don't
tonight?
you better not spoil nothing for me now.
Oh, you're going tonight to see it?
Going tonight, yes,
Oh,
sir.
what a coincidence! What a coincidence! When I started talking about Elvis, talk to me about Elvis. What sort of significance has he had on your career?
Oh, Elvis is awesome. I love his dance moves. I can't copy his dance moves. I can't dance worth a nickel, but We do Little Sister. That's our opening song in our show. So we go up there and we do Little Sister every night. Man, that's one of my favorite songs. People love that song, and people love Elvis. So those are pretty good combinations for getting people into a show.
No, certainly. And you know, like, man, there was just this song with Lisa Marie Presley, and you know, she covered Elvis's "Where No One Stands Alone" song,
Oh yeah.
which I found so interesting and such a unique sort of songwriter's perspective. Um, and there's just something about, you know, telling a story, right? Telling a story of a guy that really honored sort of not only the music that he wanted to create, but um, honored the instruments he played, right? Like the guitar is such, um, I think, really significant storytelling sort of materials that you use,
Oh yeah.
um, right? So, I mean, you have a guitar in your hand right now. I mean, what significance does that instrument mean to you?
Oh, guitar is it means a lot. I feel naked without one. Truthfully, even when I sing without a guitar, I look like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my other hand. You know what I'm saying? And but going back to Elvis, what I like about Elvis, thinking about it, he was an artist and he believed in a time in himself when everybody told him that he was wrong about what he believed in. And doing traditional country music right now, everybody tells you no. The things aren't that ain't the way to do things, and maybe it's not. Maybe they got a point, but there's been a lot of good people been told no. That's for sure.
Oh, that's definitely with me as well. They know, like, doing podcast interviews and requesting people to do interviews. I've been rejected like multiple, probably like 20, 30, 40 times already. You're just one of the lucky ones that I've been able to get a yes from in a quick fashion, which I'm thankful for. And you know, like, I think that's just so interesting that you mentioned that, like, people who are being rejected, you know, like Elvis was a guy that I think watching the film, and this is not spoiling anything, but I'm just gonna say it right now. But I think Elvis is just that guy that makes you feel so invested in what he wanted to do.
Oh yeah.
You know, I was listening to Larry King Now interview with Priscilla, and I found that sort of perspective because with her being the fiance or the former fiance now, um, of Elvis, you know, seeing sort of firsthand what her relationship was with him, and then seeing the film and understanding sort of how it really happened and the true story of Elvis. You know, a lot of people can put out stories that are fake, and people can put
Oh
stories
yeah.
out there that aren't true at all, right? And speak from their point of view, but nobody can say it like Priscilla can. And I find that really fascinating. Um, so speaking of sort of older artists now, let's continue to talk about Merle Haggard, because I actually own one of his records. It's all in the game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, such a great record, and I couldn't stop thinking about his writing concept along with the sort of songwriter's point of view. But that was truly Merle Haggard as an artist.
Oh yeah.
Talk to me about like that significance of the record, and have you been able to listen to that?
Now that record in particular, I'm trying to think of some of the bigger songs that came off of it, but all of his records are great. I own quite a few of the old vinyls myself, and when you want to be inspired, like I said before, Haggard's the way to go. I always enjoyed Big City, like we did on Idol. That was always one of my favorites, as well as Working Man Blues. I like kind of Haggard's up tempo stuff, but his ballads are awesome too. He's just a great artist.
Yeah, most certainly. And you know, like, speaking of, it's all in the game. I actually have it right here.
Oh yeah, that's a great record.
You know, there's just something about Merle. You know, that there's just something about Merle's songs that are very interesting to me. You know, I his songs "Place to Fall Apart,"
Oh
um,
yeah.
you know, "Natural High." Um, you know, I think "Place to Fall Apart" was sort of a very personal sort of song for Merle because he knew that things were not going to work out eventually when he gets closer to his age where he might have to pass on, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that sort of, I remember the George Jones classic, he stopped loving her today because he knew he was going to pass, right? He knew
Yeah.
it. He knew it. He had to write that letter of a song to his loved ones, telling them that his time is coming,
Right.
right? And then his time came, right? So like that's sort of the songwriter's point of view that's so significant now. Um, I mean, talk to me more about like sort of your songwriter's point of view and how you try to honor those artists that have come before you.
Well, I think the best way to honor those artists is to do your own thing. They always they did things their way, and I'm gonna do things my way because that's how they did their thing because they did them their way. So I think the best way to honor all of those old guys is to do things the way you want to do them because that's how they did it too. And of course, there are certain rules and things you got to go about doing things, but a lot of them a lot of them stars, back then they worked every day. They were hard workers before they ever got in the music business. And uh, I'm very lucky and fortunate that I had that upbringing too. So you better believe that I'm going to work as hard as I can at what I'm doing to make it happen. That's for sure.
I think a lot of people are looking forward to seeing what you have in store. And so that brings me to my next point because we were just talking about earlier before we started the interview about the video of Ben Haggard that I want to acknowledge as well. Ben Haggard, he made this video with I think Fender guitars,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he talked about Merle's sort of outlook on life. And he talked I found this point really significant though. He said that, you know, there's something about being simplistic. The best things happen in conversation. And he says, Merle, Mama Tried was a song about a man that dedicated his life to music. And when he was down and sad, um, the only way he could cope with it is to go out and perform for that crowd that worked their hard earned money to go see him. And so he had to be Merle Haggard. Right. And so that point that he made, I was like, wow, that's so true, though, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people forget about, oh, am I gonna overwork some notes in my music? Am I going to go in a high riff and go crazy on the vocals? But Merle's lyrics were sort of simplistic. It was natural. It was, a person speaking, not some like radio person speaking.
Right.
Right? Like I think that's so resonating.
That was his charm. That's exactly what that was. That was his ability to connect with that audience. And a lot of artists have it, and a lot of them don't. And but Merle was one of those fortunate ones that did.
Yeah, and so I think that brings me to this point of the segment. So now that you're pursuing country music, like those men have before you, um, let's talk about your debut album
Mm-hmm.
called Miller Time.
Oh yes.
I love the name, first of all. I love the name Miller Time. And I think, talk to me more about why you created that album and how that album came together.
Well, a lot of people wanted to hear my sound and what I would sound like after I got off American Idol because the judges on the show they kind of I would say advised me to do more of a modern country thing and um, going home and hearing that that was tough, but that definitely opened my mind to a lot of other things. So whenever it come time to record an album, I met with a guy named Jerry Salley who produced it, and I did. I told him I said I want to do some traditional country stuff. I said that's what I want to do, and so I had a few of those written, and we had rewrote a few things and done some different things around, and um, I'd released a just a little single LP or a little single. I guess it is just a single of "I'm Over You, Used to Get Over Me" right after I got off the show, and this album come out this April actually, and it had some stuff that I'd had since I was a kid and things that I just thought the world might need, and so I just thought I'd put it out there, and I was very, very blessed with this record. I had a song off of it called "Through with You" that got it number 35 on the country Billboard charts, which showed me that there is some people still want to hear some of that older sounding stuff, because that's pretty well what I am. And that song's probably a little more modern than a lot of the other ones off the record, but it's definitely one of the better ones off there. I can't deny that. And I've just was very fortunate that I got the right part of it.
Great. Yeah, and I think that's so true. And I think a lot of people are looking forward to hearing what your sound is like. And speaking of your sound, I know you're going to perform a song for us. So why don't you take that away for us?
Well, I sure will. I talked that through with you thing up big, and so I'm going to do it for you here today. I was very blessed. Like I said, this song originally started out as another one, really. So sometimes two songs get put together, and this is one that got rewritten. It started out as "She Said We're Through," and I took it to Nashville. And me and Jerry had wrote a couple songs that was also on the record. We wrote "I'm Done" and "Breaking the Bank" one day, and "Girls Must Be Clumsy," and this one the next. And this is just a great song, really. I'm just very, very happy with how it turned out. It's one called "Through with You." Oh, an empty bed's got only empty dreams. Tossed and tired, sleeping with a memory. Waking in the morning, it's so clear she's still gone, and her goodbye's all I hear. I'm through. She said I'm through. Well, I'm through with you. Oh, she left this house with lots of empty space, just like my heart, nothing but an empty place. And if she walked back in, wouldn't be the same. Thought you can't move on once you heard somebody say, I'm through. She said I'm through. I loved her then, I love her now. She ain't coming back around. Tell me what my poor heart's gonna do. Words can cut just like a knife, change your world, wreck your life. When someone that you love tells you they're through, I'm through. Well, I'm through with you. Now an empty glass is all I've got to show from the pain in the words that hurt the most. I only wish she was here today, and if she was, she'd get the chance to hear me say, I'm through. She said I'm through. With you. Oh, I'm through with you.
Man, what a great song.
Well, thank you.
It's called "Through with You," everybody. Talk to me briefly about that song. We've got 5 minutes left in this meeting, so.
Well, yeah, I got you. I got you covered, Hoss. That was a little song that I wrote, and like I said, it was originally a different song. It was called "She Said We're Through," and I took it to Nashville and rewrote it with Jerry Salley, and now it's "Through with You." And I tell you, It's a great song. I've been tickled to death with it. It got on radio. It's been from coast to coast and border to border. So I was tickled to death with that. It got to number 35 on the country Billboard charts. And I can't thank all the radio stations and everybody involved, all the radio promoters that helped get it there. That's for sure.
That's certainly true, and what a great song. And we've heard that style many times, and you're just carrying on the torch for it. So thanks, Alex, for taking time to talk with me today. I had a great time chatting with you. To the listeners who have made it this far into the episode, thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with former contestant on season 19 of American Idol, Alex Miller. To stay up to date with Alex and his music, you can find him on Twitter at AlexMiller91 and on Instagram and Facebook at amillermusic. For more information, you can visit alexmillercountry.com. In regards to my podcast, if you'd like to stay up to date with my show, you can find me on Twitter at The Jigme K Show or on Instagram at The Jigme Keltsing Show. You can also find my show wherever you get or listen to your podcast. Thanks again for listening. I've been your host, Jigme Keltsing. I'll see you in the next episode.